Welcome to Zuster in northern Switzerland for the 7th IAAF World Half Marathon Championships. Well, we're not far from Zurich, which of course stages the annual Weltklasse meeting, and here again many of the world's top athletes, top distance runners, are gathered. Here is the Greifensee, and the runners will run round that from the town of Zuster and back into the town again for this half marathon distance. And the top men will take about an hour, perhaps a little more, and the top women perhaps another 10 minutes more than that. It's a nice day, the temperature around about 18 degrees Celsius, though a little humid, but overall pretty good conditions for many of the cream of the world's distance runners. This is both an individual and a team competition, and we have teams here from all over the world. The Kenyans have been dominant in recent years. They have 5 wins in the 6 runnings of these championships, and the Romanians have 5 wins in the 6 running of the women's events. And here are some of the leading names to look out for. Carsten Jorgensen of Denmark there, who's made such a big breakthrough. A very strong Ethiopian team, headed perhaps by Ibrahim Said. Reasonably strong squads from Europe, from France and from Germany. They're probably unlikely to challenge the best of the Africans, the Italians perhaps, maybe stronger and maybe one of the better European nations along with the Portuguese. So on the start line we have a total of 139 men lined up. It's 11:30 in the morning. The world best for the half marathon set by the Kenyan Paul Tergat, 59:17. He's not running this year, but Shem Kororia, who set a championship best of 59:56 last year's running, he is in this very strong Kenyan lineup for this race. The Ethiopians in their distinctive green and red, prominent on the screen on the left-hand side. Also, we've got a good group of Spaniards here, including one of the world's top marathoners in Martin Fief. Look out for him, he's wearing number 50. So off they go. Pretty flat course, 1 or 2 fairly gentle hills, but nothing too taxing. Another man to look out for is a man who just a week ago set a new fantastic world record in the marathon. That's Ronaldo da Costa of Brazil. He wears number 7. And it'll be fascinating to see how he can cope. He's just on the right of the picture, in fact, just 3 back. How he can cope with coming back so quickly after running such a fast marathon. But already his Brazilian comrades, much to the fore, number 11, Valdemar dos Santos, and number 9, Eduardo do Nascimento. And Brazilians certainly have built up a great team of distance runners. They were 3rd in the IAAF World Road Relay Championships earlier in this season. So a good pace being set here by the Brazilians. That's Valdemar dos Santos, wearing number 11, out there in the lead, from Eduardo do Nascimento. Do Nascimento, in fact, the South American half-marathon record holder at 60 minutes, 30 seconds this year. And they're joined by Costa, number 7, looking pretty good. One would expect that the marathon just a week ago may well have taken something out of his legs, but he's already shown that he's quite happy to be prominent at this early stage of the race. We've also got a very good South African team. They include number 166, Hendrik Ramala, their record holder at 60 minutes 07. 163, Joseph Senguri. But already we've got 3 Brazilians there, prominent. .226, Tendai Chimusasa of Zimbabwe. He's ranging up, just about in 3rd place. And number 1, Joao Nchambo of Angola. So already the Africans just ranging in behind the South Americans, who are well to the fore here. Running through the streets of this small town of Zuster, it's become the venue for a half marathon every year now, and in this occasion incorporated in the World Championships. Last year, Kenya won the team prize, South Africa was second, and Ethiopia were third. And the Kenyans beginning to make their presence felt. Here is one of the youngest members of their team, number 104, John Bwako, holder of the world junior best for the half marathon, 61 minutes last year. And he won the Rio half marathon this year when he beat Rolando da Costa, amongst others. So number 1, Njambo of Angola, just running alongside number 11, Valdenor dos Santos of Brazil, but still a big group up there at this early stage of the race, as one might expect. But already certainly making their presence felt amongst the teams. We've got the Brazilians, the South Africans, Kenyans just a little bit behind. Ethiopians also not yet showing so strongly. Njamba of Angola hasn't yet run a very fast half marathon, but in fact he's a good track runner. He's a 28-minute 10,000-meter runner, so no particular surprise to see him amongst the leading group. Beginning to stretch out though. It's a big field of 139 men. When they leave the town of Zuster, they'll run around the Greifensee Lake, far away from Lake Zurich. Number 166, Hendrik Ramala, amongst that leading group. The South African, certainly one of the favourites for this event. Winner of the Great North Run in Britain in 1997, and the best time of 60:07. Still the Brazilians very much to the head of affairs. As we can see the runners on the road parallel to the lake. And judging by the way that the field is already beginning to be spread out, certainly I think the leading runners setting a pretty hot pace here. Anything inside around 14:20 or so for 5,000 meters would indicate a pace around about the 1 hour mark, and that really is exceptional running for a half marathon. Hallmark of world class, probably those who can run it in around 61, 62 minutes, and there's certainly plenty of them in this big group at the front of the field. So number 11, Valdenor dos Santos, very much the head of affairs, as he has been throughout most of the race. Number 1, Joao Njamba. And the Kenyans beginning to range up. There's 104, Bwako. Also look out for 107, Paul Koech. He certainly is one of the favourites, one of the real elite of distance running. 106, Joseph Kimani. 108, the defending champion, Shem Kororia. At this early stage of the race, no one really wanting to take it on too seriously. 173 there in the blue, that's Joseph Ingoa of South Africa. Well, here's a first clear chance to have a look at number 106, Joseph Kimani. 166, Ramala. Three minutes or so to go before the first 5 kilometre stage, and we can really take a check on how the pace is going. But certainly already the Kenyans, the Ethiopians, Spaniards, South Africans, Brazilians, all up amongst those big leading group of runners. Ingoa of South Africa, Just a metre or two ahead of the rest of the field. A red vest there, and Jamba. 93, the very tall figure, that's Michele Gamba of Italy. 166 Romala, and then 104 Guacco just behind him. The women's race will be starting very shortly. The women are running separately, 15 minutes behind the men. And in both cases, there are individual championships and team competitions. The individual winners, $40,000 for the first man, first woman. Second gets $20,000, third $15,000, fourth $10,000, fifth $7,000, and sixth $5,000. So good money at stake here. Plenty to go for, apart, of course, from the reputations earned in major championships. And interesting to see Costa making such a move so early in the race, because he did run this fantastic marathon, 2 hours, 6 minutes, 5 seconds, a new world best in Berlin just a week ago, and here he is at the head of the half marathon championships. Obviously feeling good. Well, here's the start of the women's race. The Kenyans will certainly be amongst the favourites. They were second last time behind Romania. Both those two teams sure to be up amongst the contenders this time. That's the world best, Masako Chiba's, 66 minutes 43 seconds, and the championship best set by Tegla the Rupi last year, 68 minutes 14 seconds. And the fastest time in the world this year by Elana Meyer. Well, both Tegla the Rupi and Elana Meyer are in this field, so obviously they'll be amongst the major contenders. There's Larupi, who set a world best for the marathon early this year. Somewhat controversially, because she was considerably assisted by running with men throughout the whole race, but nonetheless, nothing to take away from the fact that she became the world's fastest woman marathoner ever when winning in Rotterdam in 2 hours, 20 minutes, 47 seconds. And certainly she'll be one of the favourites in this women's half marathon. So Rupi wearing 3:27. 3:54 there. Christina Pomasu, one of the top Romanians, second last year. Very important member of their lineup. Elana Meyer, just about fourth in from the right in the dark green vest of South Africa. She wears 3:60. Also prominent in the centre there is the young Finn, former World Junior cross-country champion, Anne-Marie Sandel, wearing 2:82. Kenyans also include Joyce Chepchumba, fourth last year. She wears 3:25. Well, in all, 97 women have started this race. And again, they include many of the very top names in women's distance running. So Pomasu there, 3:54, with 3:27 Larupi on her left-hand side. Sandel just behind them. Olivera Jevtic of Yugoslavia, who did so well in the European Championships. She wears 3:87. 3:77 for Ethiopia. That's Asha Gigi, who's a member of their World Road Relay team. .355, another top Romanian, Livia Simon, made her name at the marathon, but she was also third in the European Championships at 10,000 metres this year. But it's the favourite, Larupi, who's making sure that the pace is pretty quick, running with Pomasu. Pomasu twice runner-up in this race, 1995 and 1997. And 11th in 1996 between them, and team golds on each occasion. So terrific record there in the race. Rupi and Pomasu at the head of the field. Gigi just behind them. Another Kenyan there, number 326 on the right of the screen. That's Lorna Kiplagat. see him on? Just out of picture. Oh, just on there, on the left of the screen. So we've got Kenya and Romania, very prominent. And these are the teams with the greatest race record in the World Half Marathon Championships. Anne-Marie Sandell of Finland there has spent a lot of time training with the Kenyans. Lost form a little bit in the last couple of years, but has been to come back into her best now. At a reasonable European Championships. The three Kenyan vests prominent in that leading group, two Ethiopians and the Romanians, Spaniards just behind. Spaniards include Julia Vaquero, running her first ever half marathon. She's been in the top 16 at the last 5 World Cross Country Championships, so I've no doubt that she'll be able to translate her form from the track, the Spanish record holder at 3,000, 5,000 and 10,000 metres, up to the longer distance of half marathon, over 21,000 kilometres. 21,000 metres, I should say. Well, there's the times at 5 kilometre stage in the men's race, and very fast indeed. Ronaldo da Costa, 14 minutes 12. That's a sub 1 hour pace, and some big names behind him. Khalid Skar, former World Cross Country champion, Valdemar dos Santos, Shem Correia, Paul Coet, John Guaco. So that strong Kenyan contingent just in behind. But there's still a pretty big group. Here they are. And da Costa certainly blazing away, 14:13. That's very fast indeed. That's Chimusasa in the yellow vest there, the Zimbabwean. Third in these championships in 1996. Just looking behind also, man we haven't seen before, that's number 3, Antonio Silio of Argentina, and he was second in these championships the very first time they were run, back in 1992. Strong Ethiopian team. Chimusasa stretching that a little bit. Number 104, John Guaco, just in behind him. 161 of Portugal, that's Luis Jesus, who was 8th last year. They seem to be taking turns, more or less, to take on the lead here. But look at that, 4 Kenyans up there in the leading group. And the Kenyans who've won this race 5 times, 1992, 3, 4, 5 and 7. The only break in their sequence when the Italians won in 1996. That's Khalid Skar in the red vest of Morocco. Good to see him back in good form. He lost a bit of preparation through injury earlier this year. Former Olympic champion back in 1992. World cross country twice. And indeed he won this race, the World Half Marathon, back in 1994. So good to see him up there in second place currently. Well, the first 5 kilometres very fast in 14:13. Interesting to see when we come to the 10-kilometre point whether they maintain that pace. This is not only an individual race, of course, but a team race as well. John Guaco of Kenya back in the lead. Number 61, that's Ibrahim Said of Ethiopia. 165. South African Abner Chipu is also now prominent. They had a terrific national championships at half marathon. That was won by Gert Thijs from Hendrik Ramala, and Chipu was in third place in that race. Chipu wears 165, Thijs 167, and Ramala 166. So the South Africans, all those three in the leading runners. Jesus of Portugal, 161. There's John Gracco, just captioned. Saeed looking good to his left. Certainly coming up towards the 10-kilometre point. The runner's just beginning to get spaced out now. 106, Kimani. And 107, Paul Coech. Jimmy Salsa taking some water. It's not especially hot here, 18 degrees Celsius at the start, but it's pretty humid, so the runners helping themselves a little bit, passing the water on, and they'll need to take some water on board. Brazilians who were so prominent early on, perhaps slightly less so, but Da Costa is certainly still keeping up there. But now, Paul Coech takes the lead. Scar just behind him, Saeed. Jesus of Portugal. Now the Kenyans and Ethiopians, Chimusasa still there as well. So this is very much an African-dominated group. Just a couple of Europeans still up there amongst the leaders. Well, we'll be coming up to 10 kilometres very shortly. Well, Costa there perhaps is feeling the strain a little bit. Just out of picture now, number 7. Seems to be going back a little bit, and that's not particularly surprising, just a week after the Berlin Marathon. Picturesque setting as we now look back on the women's race, and it's Tegla Rupi in the lead. From Ashigigi of Ethiopia, then Elana Meyer, Amarie Sandel on the left of the picture there. And Rupi really pushing it on. Must be the favourite for this race after her terrific form this year and defending champion as well. Set a world's fastest marathon this year, and also rather closer to this event, set a new world record for the 1 hour on the track. A distance very rarely run. But Larupi made the record much more respectable. Also twice New York Marathon winner, and clearly at the moment must be accounted the world's top woman road runner. There's the instant Alana Meyer in third place, just coming back to form because she possibly was a contender for that title a couple of years ago, but has had a difficult year with injuries, and now I think she's back close to her best. There she is, number 360. 326, Lorna Kiplagat, the other Kenyan, next to Sandel. Pomasu of Romania just behind them. Rupi stretching out. Not yet quite up to 5 kilometres in the women's race, which is 15 minutes behind the men. But unlike the men, where there was a big pack for much longer than this, these women are really stretching out now, and it's undoubtedly due to Larupi, who's running very fast pace. And only Gigi and perhaps Meyer seems able to go with that. Shortly be leaving the streets of Zuster and proceeding round the lake. You can see there the cyclists just peeling off. They can follow the race. Oh, look at this though. Paul Coech really opening up now. And this is clearly the favourite, and he's putting in a terrific burst. They went through 10 kilometres in 28:45, so it's a slightly slower second 5 kilometers after 14:13. We then slowed to 14:32. But Koech now has put in a decisive burst. Well, I say decisive, we're only halfway into the race. But a man of Koech's stature to go away from a field of this quality really does say something. And Koech is a terrific distance runner. Took a silver medal in the 1998 World Long Course Cross Country Championships, a member, of course, of the Kenyan winning team. And he's run a track 10 kilometers in 26 minutes 36.2 last year. Sub 13 minutes for 5,000 meters. And the list of his achievements goes on and on. He really is one of the world's top men, along with those who are not running today, Paul Tergat and Haile Gebrselassie. I think only those two could at the moment say that they might beat Paul Koech in a distance race of 10 kilometers up to, perhaps now, the half marathon. The personal best of this event of 60:31 a couple of years ago. There are men in this field who've run faster than that, but then Koech hasn't run one for a little while. And he's looking very, very good, looking relaxed, settling into a smooth rhythm. 29 years of age, so absolutely at his peak now for a distance runner. Picturesque setting there with the Greifensee on his left, but he's not looking at that. He's just staring intently ahead at the road ahead and the job that he has to do. Another half an hour, a little less at the pace that he's going for him. But it's going to be a lonely vigil. He's struck very boldly for the front at the halfway stage, and I think that shows that he must be feeling really good. Certainly used to fast road running. He became the first man ever to run 10 miles on the road in less than 3/4 of an hour. And he did 44 minutes, 45 seconds in Amsterdam in September 1997. Got a great family now of distance runners. The world 10,000 meter champion on the women's side, Sally Barsosio, in fact his niece. Look at the gap that he's opened up now. And here are the men vying for second place. Hendrik Ramala of South Africa just taking on some liquid. And just behind him, Khalid Skar. Ramala with a best of 60:07, Skar 60:27. So these are men who run half marathons in just over the 1 hour. Behind them, yes, it's Ibrahim Said of Ethiopia now up into 4th. Antonio Cilio of Argentina. Here's the camera just behind them, wearing number 3. So Said, who hasn't got the form of the others in major races, but certainly looking comfortable in this group of very top men. Skar is always a man to follow. He's got a redoubtable finishing kick. Well, he hasn't decided to go with Paul Koech. That may be a little too much for him, but he's always happy to follow, it seems, whoever leads this next pack. And this next pack of 5 have got away from the rest. Said leads them from Skar. With Ramala. Also Gert Thijs of South Africa, 167, and Abner Chipu, 165. Showing that South Africa are very much to the fore in the team competition. Indeed, at the moment, the South Africans probably leading the Kenyans, who, although they've got Koech up in the lead, the others are a little further back. The team competition, it's 3 to score, and it's not the placings that matter, it's the aggregate of the times. So, of course, if Koech does indeed stretch out and retain a big lead, that will very much help the Kenyan team. Looking very good indeed, Paul Koech. Now back in the women's race, also stretching away. It's a Kenyan here, Teglerupi, but she's got company, Elana Meyer. Just looking back down the road, no one else in sight, it seems. So, not a solo effort this time. It is indeed, again, like the men's race, a Kenyan in the lead, but a Kenyan with company. Coming up to the 10-kilometre point, they went through the first 5 kilometres in 15 minutes, 56 seconds. So we'll check on that very shortly when they get to the 10-kilometre point. Good to see Meyer back in form. Won this race back in 1994, but failed to finish in 1997 after she did exactly the same as she's doing here after staying with Lerupi for the first 10 kilometres. So, has she gone too fast again? Well, they've passed 10 kilometres now, 31:57. So that means slightly slower second 5k, 16:01, but nowhere near the same rate of slowing down that the men did in their second 5 kilometres, when the first 5k 14:13 and then the second 14:32. Well, the women have stayed much more level pace, and I think that just shows the way that Teglerupi has stretched away, because obviously the second 5k not quite as fast, perhaps just a little bit more undulating. Well, both women very slight but very determined. As we now look back on the second group chasing Paul Koech in the men's race, still 5 of them together. Let's just see how far Koech has got away. Oh, he's stretching it further and further, it seems. Well, there he is, and if he were to look back, I don't think he'd see the others because they're behind a bend. A lot of cyclists following the race on the parallel cycle tracks here. He looks so good. 50 minutes now into the race. He reached the 15 kilometres in 42 minutes 40, and that was after a 5 kilometre of 13:55. So no wonder he's got so far away. Really devastating third 5 kilometres. Indeed, he won't be so far away now from 20 kilometres, and indeed he's running on about the hour pace, so he's only about 10 minutes away now from the finish, and surely no one is going to catch him. Coming back into Zuster after they've done their turn along the lake. Well, still 5 men together. Back view of the South Africans, 166 Ramala, 167 Tees, and then Antonio Silio just ahead of them. Khalid Skar in the red, and still leading, Ibrahim Said of Ethiopia. Well, certainly they're running, I'm sure now, for the second and third places, and indeed there's prize money for the first 6 places. They may narrow the gap a little bit on Koech, but he's built up such a huge lead that I don't think any of them are going to catch him. Plenty of honour at stake in the remaining positions. These 5 got away from the rest of the field. Silio, Ramala, Said, Tice and Skar. And the team competition pretty close. South Africans obviously prominent with 2 men in this group, and their third man Gipu is not far away. Kenyans possibly just a little behind them, and the Ethiopians just 1 from each of those great African nations up in front. And here is Paul Koech, still looking terrific. Well, it's been a very determined burst. Saw him open up the gap, the halfway stage in the race, just pressed on that accelerator of 13:55 5k after previous splits of 14:13 and 14:32. There are the 5k. He was 17 seconds at that stage ahead of Said, then Skar and Silio, Tice, Ramala. Well, Kenyan still prominent because Shem Kororia in 7th and John Gwako in 10th. So we've got 3 Kenyans and 3 South Africans in the top 10 in this race at the 15K stage. The young man seems to be determined to try to keep pace with Koech. I don't suppose he'll do so for too long. Or indeed, the marshal is coming up and telling him to stop that, get out of the way, let the race continue. Ramallah now pushing on, and Ramallah and Scar have dropped the rest, it seems, in the battle for the minor placings behind Koech. Hendrik Ramallah looking very good, made a great breakthrough a couple of years ago, and was 4th in this race last year when he was the first non-Kenyan. Half marathon probably his best distance, though he's also the South African record holder at 10,000 metres. Ran 27:30 this year on the track. But we're only 5 or 6 minutes away from the finish. The championship record, 59.96, that could be on for Koech. He must be running very close to that, judging from the splits that we've already had. The next one, which will be in a couple of minutes or so, will be the 20-kilometre point. But if Koech were to win this race, indeed it will be his first major title. He's certainly been there or thereabouts in many top distance races over the last few years. But this will be his first title on an international stage, though of course he was the African champion, and that's no easy feat, in 1996 at 5,000 metres. Really is progressing very well. 4th in the World Cross Country twice, before 2nd this year. 6th in the Olympic 10,000 metres. 4th in the 97 World 10,000 metres. And now he looks sure to get a medal. He did, of course, win a gold medal in the Kenyan team in the World Road Relay, as well as in the cross-country championships. This will be his first individual title. Well, he's been welcomed by the bands, and good crowds here in Ulster as they're lining the roads in the mile or so leading up to the finish. Ramallah looking good in 2nd place. But he'll know that Khalid Scar has got a finish, but Scar was just ahead of him there. Can't see Scar at the moment, but anyway, it's up. That's Ramallah. Ibrahim Said of Ethiopia, Gert Thijs of South Africa, Antonio Silio of Argentina, also up there in the leading places. All Koech then, coming up to 20 kilometres. In a race of just over 21 kilometres, looking confident, sure of victory now. Will he indeed get the championship record? Will he break the 1 hour? Must be close to it. You just look round, you can't see anybody. They're not going to trouble him. And there's 20 kilometres, 56:57. So that means, we slow down a little bit. 14:17 for that 4th 5 kilometres. It just might mean that the championship record of Shem Kororia, who's back down the field and ran 10th place last we saw, may just stay put for another year. Koech won't be too bothered by that, but he's just gliding on so smoothly here through the streets of Worcester. Not long now. Well, looking back down the field, nobody else in sight, just the great spectacle of this very fine distance runner, Paul Koech, out on his own. the head of the 6th IAF World Half Marathon Championships. And still nobody in sight behind him in this long straight. Seco clock ticking away towards the hour. He really still looks very relaxed, very smooth. One or two bends just to negotiate as they come into the town, following the blue line, which shows the measured half-marathon course. Just a minute or so away from the triumph here. And what a great tradition these Kenyans have built up in world distance running over the last 20 years. A very tight little bend there now, but now it's all down to the finish. Round those bends he goes, and finish now in sight for Paul Koech, winning this 1998 World Half Marathon Championships, worth $40,000 for him individually, and helping the Kenyan team as well. There is the finish line for Paul Koech, getting very close to the 1 hour and the championship best. He's going to be just outside that, clicking up towards the hour, and Paul Koech is the champion. Just 1 second outside 1 hour. Really world-class time. And here is quite a battle on for second place. It's Hendrik Ramala of South Africa, just ahead of Khalid Scar of Morocco. Scar is closing fast. Ramala looking round. Checking. Will Ramala hold on to the finish? Yes, he does. Hendrik Ramala gets second for South Africa. Khalid Scar, third for Morocco. This is Cilio of Argentina. Well, he's coming just behind Said and Tice into 6th place. That's Tice. And Cilio. 6 men in. Koech, Ramala, Scar, Said, Tice and Cilio. Now the rest of the field who have dropped by that group. Here's Luis Jesus of Portugal, from Tendi Chimusasa of Zimbabwe. "61 minutes into the race. And here's the third South African, Abner Chipu, so that could be significant. I think that will mean that South Africa could well have taken the team prize, though Kenya will be close. And here's Shem Kororia, the defending champion, coming through in 10th place, and the third Kenyan. So it's definitely South Africa and Kenya, first two in the team prize. That's John Gwako in 11th place, and Costa, the marathon man, is finishing in 12th, just ahead of Kibor of Korea, and the Spaniards, Serrano and Martin Fieth. Karsten Jorgensen of Denmark finishing now. Well, this has been a very high standard race indeed, but there's no question that the top man has been Paul Koech. A really terrific display of distance running, and Paul Koech taking the victory for Kenya. Not quite enough to get the team prize, which has gone to very fine packing by the South Africans, just ahead of Kenya. Close battle for second, and even the redoubtable finish of Khalid Scar wasn't quite enough to take him ahead of this man, Hendrik Ramala, leading home the South Africans. Well, further down the field, still they come in. Gutierrez of Colombia, another Colombian, so the Colombians packing quite well. So from the men's race, with that clear Kenyan victory, will it be another one? Well, Tegla Rupi has led pretty well all the way, but she's had company from Ilana Maya, and unlike last year, when Maya cracked and failed to finish, this time she looks as if she's going the distance. Those two, Larupi and Maya, well clear. Well, 15 kilometres now in 48.24. Pace has slowed a little. We started with 15.56, then 16.01 for 5 kilometre splits, and that last one, 16.27. No other runners in sight. Rupi and Maya, both former champions. The Rupi won in 1997, Maya in 1994. Right away back down the field to Liviu Simon of Romania. Now she's got them in her sights. She's perhaps narrowed the gap just a little bit after that slower third 5 kilometre stage. Runners won't have seen much of the Greifensee, but we can see it from our aerial shots. Well, coming into the finish in this women's half marathon, it looks as if Tegla Larupi has shaken off Ilana Maya. Maya still fighting, but she's what now, some 20 metres or so down. And there's not very far to go now. Only a kilometre perhaps. Tegla Larupi, what a year she is having. World's fastest marathon earlier in the year at Rotterdam. World 1 hour record. Now she looks round as she goes round these tight bends in Zuster, just to check where Maya is. And the gap's opening up. And the favourite looks as if she's going to win again. Maya is not renowned for her fast finish. She's got a good steady pace generally throughout her races, so unless Larupi were to crack, which seems most unlikely in these final stages, then it's going to be another Kenyan champion. With Kenyans prominent further down the field, runners like Chepchumba and Kiplagat, they could well be on their way to a team victory as well here, because I don't think the South Africans, but I'm sure they haven't got anything like the support that they had in the men's race to back Maya. Well, Larupi still checks round, but the coast is pretty clear, just coming round these bends towards the finish now. We did see Larupi once crack in the closing stages in the New York Marathon, but no such problem here. You can see Maya now, but she knows that she's opened up far too big a lead for Maya to close. So she's outside the championship best that she set last year at 68.14, but this is still another very fine run indeed by Larupi. Tegla Larupi comes in to win the IAF World Half Marathon for women. Tegla Larupi wins for Kenya. 68 minutes, 29 seconds, and in second place. Good to see a fine return to form there for Ilana Maya of South Africa. 68 minutes, 32 seconds. Great running by the two Africans, and there is the third runner, Liviu Simon, from this very fine Romanian team who won so many team awards over the last few years. And Simon, top marathoner, established her credentials on the track this summer and now has taken third place in the half marathon. Hi. And here's the battle for the other places. 387, that's Olivera Jevcic of Yugoslavia. She's going to come in fourth place, just outside 1 hour 10. Then Anne-Marie Sandel of Finland takes fifth place. Good for for the Kenyan team here, because here is Joyce Chepchumba in 6th place.
First and World Half Marathon champion.
So the presentations, and Dr. Primo Nebbiolo, IAF President,
Paul Quet.
will congratulate the winner of the men's race, Paul Koech. He takes the gold medal.
The Republic of South Africa, Hendrik Ramala.
With an all-African victory podium, here is Hendrik Ramala taking the silver medal. Personal best for Koech at the half-marathon distance. Ramala was just outside. And in 3rd place, just inside his own personal best, Khalid Skar from Morocco. What a terrific run there from Paul Koech. He had the confidence to go away at the halfway stage and rewarded with a time just a second outside the 1 hour. Ramala, Skar, Said, Tyson, Cilio, all under 61 minutes. And South Africa winning the team award with 2nd, 5th and 9th places. Kenyans also packing very well. See Kwako and Kibor. So they had 4 men in the first 13. Spaniards prominent. So too the Ethiopians. Very high standard, as indeed you can see by the large number of PBs shown there, personal bests. Good to see Addis Abebe making a bit of a comeback there for Ethiopia. Ethiopians, in fact, taking 3rd, just ahead of Portugal and Spain in the team competition. Nchamba of Angola, who was prominent early on, he held on well, and he too was rewarded with a big personal best. So the standards shown there with 50 runners running 64 seconds or better. And here is the victory podium for the women's race. And Tegla Larupi, the winner, congratulates Elana Meyer of South Africa. And stepping up onto the podium to take the bronze medal, just as she had in the World Championships Marathon last year and the European 10,000 this year, Livio Simon of Romania. Well, the women's team victory went to Kenya by a clear margin, Romania in 2nd place, Spain in 3rd. So a very fine IAF World Half Marathon Championships. There's confirmation of the women's result. Farewell now from me, Peter Matthews from Worcester.